Right. Shalom, shalom. Shalom, shalom. We say welcome, shalom to all those who are in the house, those who are coming in digitally, whether it's morning, noon, or night. We welcome all of you to Torah study here at House of Yah CAC. We thank the Most High. He's given us another day, another opportunity that we can show our appreciation unto Him by coming and listening to Torah. We definitely have it easier in a lot of ways. We have it a lot easier, even though we seem to be so busy in our schedules, and we've got everything to do but to take time for the Most High Yah. It does seem like He gets seconds and thirds and fourths. We put ourselves before Him. We put ourselves. It's difficult in the days and time that we live in to make a sacrifice. You do have some though. He does have a remnant. He does have a small number of people in all of the house of Yasharel. He has a small number. It's called a remnant that will sacrifice. That will take the time. That will put Him first. How many of us know that we serve a jealous Elohim? I'm wondering if we know that and if we take that to heart. I mean, are we taking it to heart that our Elohim, that who we serve and worship and bow down to, is very jealous. He's very jealous, and if you want to put other things before Him, you show it in your lifestyle and the things that we do. The day is coming where He's going to have everybody's attention. He might not have it right now, but more people are starting to recognize and to wake up to what is going on in their lives. A lot of people are waking up to who Israel is. The Roman Catholic construct of Christianity and all Protestants, they're not going to tell you who Israel is and who the covenant is with, because that will disqualify many of them, if not all of them. It'll disqualify a large number. So they're not for the awakening of Israel. They're not for the gathering together of Israel. They're not for the descendants of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob and the 12 tribes. The Roman construct of Christianity is not for that. They don't want to hear that. You talk about Israel and the 12 tribes and the covenant that He made with Israel, and you turn people off. They don't want to hear it. They don't want to hear it. They feel that covenant has been done away. So what they're calling our Abba, when people of that religion don't want to hear about the 12 tribes and them being scattered and the gathering back together of them again, when they don't want to hear that at all, and they say that's past, He's done with that, they're calling our Father a covenant breaker. That's what they're calling Him. They're calling Him a covenant breaker because He made a covenant with Abraham, He made a covenant with Isaac, He made a covenant with Jacob, and He said it was an everlasting covenant. So when you have people in that religion that tells you, no, that's done away with, they're calling your Father a covenant breaker. And I know we don't take offense to that, because a lot of times we live our lives any old kind of way. We don't put Abba Yah first and foremost. We don't do that. We have our own lives to live. We have our own religions to keep. We have our own gods to serve. But the day is coming where He's going to have everybody's attention. You can believe that. You can rest on that. He's going to get everybody's attention. And there are some, when I say people, and there are some, it's a minority, but there are some that puts Abba Yah first. And a lot of people say, well, I put Jesus first. Well, what were the two commandments that Yahusha told us that all the laws and the prophets hang on? What were those two? When they asked Yahusha, they asked Him, what is the great commandment in the law? What did He say? Did He say, bow down and worship me? Serve me? That's not what He said. What did he say? When they asked him, what is the great commandment? What did he say? He said, love the Most High Yah with all your body, soul, spirit, your mind, your strength. Love him first. And then he said, and with all thy heart. Then he said, the second is like unto the first, which is love your neighbor as yourself. On these two commandments, Yahusha did not do away with the commandments. The first and great commandment is what we have an anthem every week. Shemai Yasharel. That is the first and great commandment. And you got some folks who don't want to sing that. If Yahusha was here, he would say that's the first and great commandment. But we don't, where's the joy? Where's the understanding? Where's the emphasis on what Yahusha say? Because a lot of people are following Jesus, but they're not following Yahusha. You got a lot of Jesus followers, but not Yahusha followers. And so he's going to get everybody's attention. We're drawing close to an event. We're drawing close to an event that is going to take place on April 8th. And it is a full lunar eclipse. Full lunar eclipse. And if you can put that up on the monitor here. This eclipse that is about to happen, and it's going to happen at our New Year. It's going to happen at our New Year. When is the New Year? I know a lot of people follow the solar New Year. And if you follow the solar New Year, then your New Year started yesterday at about 11 o'clock in the afternoon. Because, and why would I say that? Anybody knows why I would say that? If you follow the solar New Year, because you had the equinox. Yesterday was the equinox, and that's when a lot of people say the new year begins. That's why a lot of people were saying Happy New Year yesterday, and they're saying today is the first day of the new year. But according to Torah, when he said in the 12th chapter of Exodus, when he said that this is the beginning of months to you, it wasn't based on the solar equinox, because the new month started with a new moon. It started with a new moon. So right now, if you go out there and look at it, because I seen the moon as the sun was going down, you can still see some of the moon out there, and it's almost full. It's not quite full. I think it's starting to, wane. So the light is starting to go out of it. The next new moon, anybody knows when the next new moon is? Well, the next new moon is April 8th, April 9th. That's the next new moon. So the next new moon on the calendar, which is our new year, there's going to be an eclipse. And this eclipse that is coming, there's a lot of commotion. There's a lot of messaging. There's a lot of warning. There's a lot of things going on. There's a lot of noise of preparation and preparing for this, which is the first day of the year on the Hebrew calendar. So our new year, what are they saying that's going to happen on our new year? Well, there's going to be a full eclipse. The totality eclipse, they said it's supposed to last about, 4 minutes? But it's going to take several minutes, longer than 4 minutes, to go across take that pattern from Texas all the way up to Maine. It's going to take more than 4 minutes, but the totality of it is going to be about 4 minutes. Now, on our new year, and I think Abba Yah is getting everybody's attention. I think a lot of people they're starting to get nervous. There's, like I said, a lot of noise behind it. You've got a lot of people preparing. There's a lot of preparation going on. They've already said on government outlets, they're saying prepare for 3 days of food, 3 days of water, fill up your gas tanks, and be prepared for shortages. Now, why all of this? Why all of this on a eclipse that's the totality of is only going to last 4 minutes. But in some of those school districts where this is taking its path, you've got school districts that are shutting down, no school, no school. And so there's a lot of commotion and noise and a lot of messaging behind it. And the way I see it, if we could put this is the, how many of y'all can see that calendar? This calendar here, this is not normal. This is not normal. When you look at this, is eclipses normal? Yeah, eclipses are normal because we've had a number of them. But if you look at the path of these eclipses across the United States, this is not normal. This is not normal. So what do you see? You see the, what letter is this? It's the Aleph, right? The Aleph. It's the Aleph, which is the first letter in the Hebrew alphabet. It's the Aleph. This here, the X here, is the Tav, which is the last letter of the Hebrew alphabet. Now, there's some things that we can look at and recognize here because, number one, he's got the Tav here coming across this next solar eclipse. This next eclipse will actually complete the Aleph and the Tav. Now, who said they were the Aleph and the Tav? Didn't Yahusha say that? Notice now, this is not the Alpha and Omega, which means it's not in Greek. He's not speaking Greek. Do y'all know Yahusha did not speak Greek? He didn't speak Greek, but we're so many of our scholars, I know Greek, and they want to get into Greek because the New Testament. These men that wrote Torah, they wrote it in Hebrew. They wrote their books in Hebrew, but the translators took it and translated it into Greek, and then translated it into Latin, and then translated it into English. What he's telling you is, he's going back to the ancient Hebrew. This is not modern Hebrew, because I know a lot of times we have the modern Hebrew when we do our Hebrew nugget. We have the modern Hebrew. This is not the modern Hebrew. The modern Hebrew is influenced by the Masoretes and the Ashkenazis. They heavily influence. They come up with the modern Hebrew, which is more like an Aramaic, and then the Nuqid points to it that gives you they try to tell you how to pronounce it, is more Yiddish than it is Hebrew. Abba Yah is going back to ancient Hebrew. Remember now, it says in Daniel, he is the Ancient of Days. He's the Ancient of Days. And when he comes and sits on the throne, he's sitting on the throne as the Ancient of Days. We're going back to the ancient Paleo Hebrew is what we're going, and he's marking the whole country. He's letting you know. So anybody who's against the Hebrew language, I don't know why y'all studying Hebrew. I don't know why you're trying to get understanding of the Hebrew language, because my father speaks Hebrew. Nobody called him, and I know we call him Jesus. I know we do. A lot of people they still call him that. Nobody called him that back then. Nobody. This is the Aleph and the Tav. And in Revelations, he says, I'm the Aleph and the Tav. So here, coming across our country, man cannot touch this. They'll try to touch his word that's left on parchment and stone. They'll try to touch that and change it and translate it into a language so that they can have their culture behind it. But he's not going to take that. He's going back. We're going back. When I see this, we're going back. We're going back to the Ancient of Days, just like it says in Daniel, the Ancient of Days. And so This is very important, especially when you come up to what we have to study. What we're studying to get into the kingdom, he's putting his mark here. He'll letting you know. And this tav here is 400. The numeric value of it is 400. So he's Xing it right across the United States, letting you know we're at the end. This here marks that we're at the end. It's not going to be too much longer. That's why, and you know, y'all know the heathen nations know more about our book than we do. They know more about it than we do. In fact, we're reading it, some of us are reading it for the first time, getting an understanding of what they've known for years. They've known for years. They know he's a covenant Elohim. They know he's chosen Israel. They know that. It's you who don't know. We don't know that because we have been blinded. But it says in Romans, in the 13th chapter of Romans, you know what Shaul said? He said it's high time that you do what? Awake out of sleep. And you got a lot of folks, even, it's not funny, but sometimes I look at it and I think, man, these people just don't know. It could be comical, but you have a lot of people in Christian religion say, I'm tired of wokeism. I don't want to be woke. If that's what woke is, I'd rather stay asleep. They don't even know what, it's written in our book, it's high time that you awake out of sleep. Why did he tell you it's time to wake up? What did he say after that? When he said it's high time for you to wake out of sleep because of what? Your redemption is nigh. We're at the end. We're at the end here. This is about to be wrapped up. So when we know that this is going to happen, we know that as pure as he is, Abba Yahuwah is pure. And Yahusha says, only the pure in heart is what? Going to see Elohim. That's what Yahusha said. Yahusha said, only the pure in heart are going to be able to see Elohim. You have a lot of people, they'll tell you, this don't matter. Oh, that don't matter. There's eclipse all the time. They'll try to tell you that. But those who are pure in heart, let's go to Torah. Let's go to Torah. Matthew 5 and verse number 7. Matif Yahu 5, and I think it's verse number 7. Let's see what he says. It's verse number 8. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see Elohim. Only those who are pure. So you have a lot of people that can't see it. They don't see it. They don't see Elohim. They don't see what's going on. And that's why a lot of people are going to perish. There's going to be a lot of death that's going to take place because only those who are going to make it, those going to be pure. The only ones that's going to make it into the kingdom are those going to be pure. Pure, which means you got to get rid of a lot of stuff. And we had a handout, and in my absence, the teachers were supposed to teach off of that so that we can work on some things so that we could be pure in heart. I can't have, there's things on that list. How many things was on that list? About 20-something. 20, I picked number 12. Number 12, yeah. Disillusionment. And Maury Parker, he picked disrespect. Despair. And Maury Gerard, what did he pick? Truth? Okay. So we have to be, there's things that we have to purge out of us. There's some things we have to purge out. And there's a list of things that we'll be going through, and I'll probably do some quick teachings on them leading up to Passover. Because there's one thing about Passover, when we get to Passover, there's a lot of introspection that should have been done before April 23rd. Before April 23rd, we should be checking some of those things off. Before April 23rd. There's some purification I have to go through in my heart. I've got to get rid of a lot of things. Disillusionment, despair. I got to get rid of that. Imbalance. Sometimes some of us, we're too far to the right or we're too far to the left. You got to have balance. You got to be balanced in all things. So we'll be hitting on some of those as we go forward, because only the pure in heart. He's going to purge a lot of us as we come up to the end here. He's going to start purging. You're going to see people repenting, because that is a commandment. When he came back from his temptation, 40 days and 40 nights, when he came back from his temptation, the first word that came out of his mouth, teshuvah, repent. That was the first thing he said. He said, repent, because the kingdom of heaven is at hand. And so as we see this day approaching, there's many things you're going to have to repent of to have a pure heart. And he's going to do some purging. You know how he purges? He purges with fire. He'll turn up the heat. And I hope we see his fire and indignation. I hope we can see it, because you ought to be afraid of his fire and his anger. You ought to be afraid of it. Let's go to Exodus chapter 12, verse number 1. We'll start there. Exodus 12:1. I'm going to read 1 and 2, but I want to go. Because we have a lot of people that don't keep Passover or unleavened bread. And when I say we, I'm talking about a lot of our family, friends, Christianity in that religion. They don't keep Passover or unleavened bread. They keep, and I'm so glad for the Hebrew nugget that's coming out, and the research that our occultes are doing, and the putting together of it and teaching it, our Hebrew nugget. There's a lot of nuggets in there. There's a lot of nuggets, and they're dropping some nuggets. And this pagan holiday that's coming up. Because see, for us, those who are in Yasharel, who's covered by the blood of Yahusha, we don't keep pagan holidays. We don't keep them. Because, like it says, you got to have pure in heart. If you don't have a pure heart, you ain't going to see them. Everybody that's keeping all these pagan holidays, you ain't going to see them. I'm sorry to say. I know it's difficult because it's hard because we have family. We have friends. We have loved ones. And we tell them we want them, hey, y'all need to come out of that. You don't need to, let's learn Torah. Teach us Torah, because they'll tell you that was done away with, and it hasn't. It has not been done away with. I'm going to come back here, but first, let's go. Let's hear what Yahusha says first, and then we'll hear what Shaul says. Let's go to Matthew 5 and 17. Matthew 5:17. We're going to go back to Exodus. It all ties in. It's all good. It's all good. Think. When we get into the prophets, and I don't know, hopefully Jeremiah tonight, I'm going to try to hasten along. When we get into the prophets, even Moses, Musha was a prophet. When we get into the prophets, none of that's done away with. The prophecy that Musha gave at Sinai And before he went up in Mount Nebo to die, the prophecy that he gave in Deuteronomy, that's not done away with. That's still in effect. The prophecy of Isaiah, the prophecy of Jeremiah, all that prophecy is still in effect today. He says, don't y'all think that I come to destroy it. So when people tell you that everything that Israel did as a nation and the keeping of the feast and the Sabbath and all that's done away with now that I'm in Yahusha. You're calling Yahusha a liar. When people say that, they're calling him a liar. Because he says, I have not come to destroy. Or the prophets, I have not come to destroy, but to fulfill. Listen now. For verily I say unto you, till heaven and earth pass. Are we still on the same heaven and earth that Musha was? That the prophets were? That Yahusha, is this still the same heaven and earth? One jot or one tittle shall in no wise pass from the law till all. Notice now, he didn't say some, he said all. All of it has to be fulfilled. Heaven and earth, once the law and the prophets, all of it is fulfilled. Once it's all fulfilled, we're going to have a new heaven and a new earth. Because there's a lot of things that we have to read and study in Revelation that's prophecy. It's prophecy. It was written about 2,000 years ago, but it's prophecy. That has to be fulfilled. Everything that's written in Revelation has to be fulfilled. Once all of that is fulfilled, then he's going to destroy this heaven and earth, and then we're going to have a new heaven and a new earth. But all of this, everything that's written in Torah here has to be fulfilled. So let's go to 1 Corinthians 5 and 7. 1 Corinthians 5 and 7 and see what Shaul has to say. Purge out therefore the old leaven. And the teaching that we're having, disillusionment, right? Even disbelief, I think that's on there. Because he says the unbelieving ain't going to make it. We have to purge out all that old leaven, that ye may be a new lump as ye are unleavened. You know what this unleavened is? Like Yahusha said, you have to be pure in heart. That unleavened means you don't have no leaven in it, which means you don't have no what? Sin. So we're supposed to be unleavened. So as we go through this and we start looking at, and you can check, I got this in my character. I got to get this out of my character. I got to get this out of my behavior. I got to get rid of this because I want to be unleavened. They never did away with the days of unleavened. For even Mashiach, our Passover, is sacrificed for us. Now this is so much to absorb when he says Mashiach is our Passover. There's so much to absorb because we have to go back to the first time Passover was even mentioned. If Mashiach is our Passover, don't you think I got to have an understanding of Passover? I think I need to know something about Passover instead of E-A-S-T-E-R and a feminine god and a rabbit that lays eggs. Which it doesn't. But you tell your kids. So we corrupt. Do you know we got 4, 5, 6, 7-year-old kids that are already corrupt and scarred and marred because of us, because of what we taught them. Do you know it's hard to get that out of a child once it gets in them? It's hard to get it out. And you know who he's going to blame? He's going to blame them parents. He's going to blame them parents. A child don't know unless you teach it. And you know what? You can't say it just one time. Child ain't going to get it no one time. It's got to be repeated over and over and over. It might take years, but I'm letting y'all know we don't have years now. We're coming down to the end. We don't have years. We got to get this thing together now. So if Mashiach is my Passover, I think I better go back to when Passover was first mentioned. When Passover or Pesach was first mentioned, Exodus 12:14, that's when it was first mentioned. So I have to go back to the Passover. And this day shall be unto you for a memorial, and you shall keep. Let's go up to 13. Let's go up to 13. Go up to 12. Okay. Well, I'm going to read this on 14, but we have to go down to where it says this is Yahuwah's Passover. Go down to, what verse is that in 12? Going down 16, 17. Because we're going to read all of this, but one thing I wanted to get is, okay, maybe it's up there a little closer. 11? Okay, that's what I wanted. Let's go to verse 11. This is the first mention of Passover. And thus shall ye eat it, your loins girded, your shoes on your feet, and your staff in your hand, and ye shall eat it in haste. It is Yahuwah's Passover. First time Passover is mentioned. Yahuwah's Passover. So I have to understand what this Passover is. If Shaul was telling me Mashiach is my Passover, then I don't have no understanding of it, then I have to go back to the first mention and study when it was first mentioned to understand what are we talking about. When it says Yahusha is our Passover, what are we talking about? What am I dealing with? What am I dealing with? Yahuwah's Passover? Well, what does that mean to you? If Mashiach is in his stead here, what is this? And that's what we need to see. Because Shaul says, when you guys go back and study this, you have to see that Yahusha is your Passover. So they had to pass over. They had to pass over from bondage into the promised land. Going from bondage into the promised land, that is a Passover. It's Yahuwah's Passover. But Shaul says, well, it's Christ now. It's the Mashiach now. So the Mashiach is going to take us from captivity into the promised land. He's my Passover now. So I tell you what, it is prophesied that he is going to gather his people from the four corners and he's going to take them into the wilderness. And what is he going to do then when he gets them in the wilderness? He's going to deal with them what? Face to face. And that's going to be the time of that unleavened bread. Because when he deals with you face to face, if you haven't worked out all of those sins, because sin will not get you in. Sin will not get you in. Yes. No, the feast is unleavened bread. Yeah, and we have it to recognize him as our Passover. In memorial. It is a memorial. That's what it says in verse number 14. This is a memorial unto you. So Mashiach is our Passover, right? This is Yahuwah's Passover. It's the one, he's the author of it. He set it up. Now, verse 14. Let's go down. That plague, that death plague, if he don't see the Mashiach's blood on you, when you get out there into the wilderness, he ain't going to pass over you. He's not going to pass over you. Now, verse 14, and this day, notice now, this day, right, shall be unto you for a memorial. So you're never supposed to forget it. You mean we're not supposed to ever forget it? Well, keep reading. And ye shall keep it a feast to Yahuwah throughout your generations. Ye shall keep it a feast by an ordinance forever. Forever. So it's just that when I keep that feast, I know it was the Mashiach. That's my Passover. It's through his death. We're not, every animal you eat, you have to kill it in order to eat it. And you have to get rid of all the blood because you ain't supposed to have no blood on it. In the time of our Messiah? Yeah, when he said they had to go and prepare for the feast, on the 10th day is when they actually would kill the lamb. On the 10th day. They didn't kill the lamb when he went to the room to sit down and eat it with them. You have to follow the ordinances. So the ordinance was it's supposed to be killed on the 10th day. They would cut it and process it, get rid of all the blood. They had to roast it. When he said go and prepare, that's what that preparation is. It took him more than, he didn't just walk up there with the disciples and he put his hands on the table and there it appeared. No, they had to go through the ordinances of getting the lamb. And they had done it for so many years, they got really proficient with it. So when he said, go find the place, prepare it for me, that's a part of that preparation. And then he sat down and he ate lamb with them. Why did he eat lamb? Why did Yahusha eat lamb? He had to fulfill all righteousness. And because it was his father's Passover. He wasn't, when it says, this is my Passover, you do it forever, Yahusha did it all his years. His short life, he did it all the way up to the end. He did it. Because if he didn't do it, he would have been disobedient. Because we're gonna see that as we go on here, because it was commanded of them. This is a commandment. So it was commanded of him. So Yahusha, he sat down there and had lamb, roasted lamb. And there was unleavened bread. And he took the bread and he broke it. And he says, this is what they're going to do to my body. This is my body. This is what's going to happen to me. When he broke that bread. So when we take the bread, we're not eating his body. It's just a memorial of what they did to him. And we know that he was sinless because that unleavened bread means you can't have no sin in it, or you couldn't have no leaven in it. And the unleavened bread represents a body without sin, which we have to be like that. We have to be like that. That's why further on we'll get down into 1 Corinthians, the 11th chapter, and he'll talk about how you have to prepare for this. He gives us time and space to repent. He gives us that time and space to repent. Because when we take of his body and his body was broken, it was like that unleavened bread had no sin in it. It had no sin in it. That's how we have to be. We can't have sin in us. So we go through our inspection. We inspect ourselves, and we want to get rid of all the leaven. It says you got to get it out of your house. So this is my house. We got to get rid of all the leaven out of our house. From the time we had atonement till now, there might have been some things that you allowed back in your house. Because Shaul says in Galatians 2:18, he says, if I build again those things that I destroy, I make myself a transgressor. So there might have been some things that, man, I let some stuff get back into this house. I got to get it out of my house now because I can't have any leaven. So let's go up to verse 1. And Yahweh spake unto Musha and unto Aaron and in the land of Egypt, saying, this month shall be unto you the beginning of months. It shall be the first month of the year to you. So the first month of the year to the Hebrews. He wasn't talking to the Egyptians. He wasn't talking to the Greeks. He wasn't talking to the Romans. He wasn't talking to the Canaanites. He wasn't talking to the Ethiopians. He was talking to those Hebrews. To you, this is the first month of the year. This is your new year. So we're getting ready to go into our new year. And this is a time that we're supposed to remember. And like I said, some people follow the solar equinox, and they said that's when the year starts. But to us, he doesn't say that to us. He says the first of the month. We know it's the first of the month when we see a new moon, when you see the renewing of the moon. That first light that comes on there is the renewing of the moon. And so that's the beginning of the month to us. He says that this is the beginning of the year. So when you have the year of Abib, which is in the springtime, this is your new year. Now, 14 days, it says, speak unto the congregation of Yasharel, saying, in the 10th day of this month, they shall take of them every man a lamb, according to the house of their fathers, a lamb for a house. I guess I'll go ahead and say this. Listen to Torah. Listen to Torah. And if the household be too little for the lamb, who's he talking? He's talking to the Hebrews, right? But what is he telling the Hebrews to do? To a lamb for what? For the house. For the household. If there's too little for you, let him and his neighbor next unto his house take it according to the number of the souls. Every man according to his eating shall make your count for the lamb. So, was there a lamb in every house? No. Because there were some houses that were what? So they would go to their neighbor. But if you lived in a neighborhood like what I grew up in, and it was large families everywhere, where was everybody keeping Passover? In their house. Your lamb shall be without blemish, a male of the first year. You shall take it out from the sheep. Come on, roll it up. Or from the goats. And you shall keep it until the 14th day of the same month. And the whole assembly of the congregation of Yasharel shall kill it in the evening. On the 14th day in the evening. And ye shall take the blood and strike it on the two doorposts and upon the houses, side posts and the doorposts of the houses wherein they shall eat it. And they shall eat the flesh. In that night, roasts with fire and unleavened bread with bitter herbs, they shall eat it. So actually, they killed it on the 14th day. They picked it out on the 10th, inspected it. They killed it on the 14th. And when they killed it on the 14th, they roasted it. In the evening. They roasted it in the evening, and they ate it that night. So when the evening, or like when 6 o'clock came, they didn't eat right at 6. It says, when were they to kill it? At about 6. That's when you kill it. And then they had to roast it, so they didn't eat at 6. They ate later. And to be honest with you, I think most of them just stayed up all night. I think they had the meal and because he said the staff in your hand, your boots on. I mean, they was ready to go. So they sat at the table and they ate and they was ready to go. Do you know what they heard as that night progressed and went on? Screaming and hollering in Egypt because folks was dying in their house. They was dying. And even before this, what took place before this in the 10th chapter of Exodus? What took place? Anybody know? Before Passover, what took place? The plague in the 10th chapter of Exodus, it was the plague of darkness. And how long did that darkness last? 3 full days. Exodus chapter 10. Let's see. Verse 21. Let's look at that. And Yahuwah said unto Moshe, strike out thine hand toward heaven, that there may be darkness over the land of Egypt, even darkness, which what? You can feel the darkness. That's some deep darkness when you can feel it. Yeah, I mean, I can feel it because you got sensory all in your skin. You can feel how dark it was. That's some deep darkness. And Moshe stretched out forth his hand toward heaven, and there was a thick darkness in all the land of Egypt. How many days? 3 days. So before Passover, there was 3 days of darkness which could be felt. They saw not one another, neither rose any from his place for 3 days. But all the children of Yasharel had light in their dwellings. So they couldn't see. It was so dark you couldn't see. And none of them could move. They couldn't move for 3 days, so they was frozen in darkness. But in Yasharel, or in Goshen, there was light. So the 3 days of darkness, and this is kind of debatable, did it happen before the first day of Abib? Because in 12th chapter 1 and 2, it says this is the beginning of months to you, and the 10th day. So, but you have to remember there was light in Goshen. So they were still able to get around. They had mobility. They could see. But everywhere in Egypt, it was so black, it was so dark that they couldn't even move. They froze. They couldn't even leave their house or nothing. But in Goshen, there was light. Yasharel had light in their dwellings. You know, and Pharaoh called unto Moshe and said, go ye serve Yahuwah, only let your flocks and your herds be stayed. Let your little ones also go with you, because they kept, pleading with them and bargaining and going back and forth. And he kept telling them, we got to go. Well, you go, you men go, but leave your wives and children. No, we got to take our wives and children and our herds. No, we'll take your wives and children, but leave your herds back. Oh, no, I mean, so they was going back and forth in negotiation. But he says here, and Moshe said, thou must give us also sacrifice and burnt offerings, that we may sacrifice unto Yahuwah our Elohim. So not only were they supposed to go and serve him, how were they going to serve him? Through sacrifice. They were going to serve him through sacrifice. Even us, how do we serve him? Through sacrifice. I beseech you, therefore, brethren, by the mercies of Elohim, that you present your bodies a living sacrifice. It has to be holy or set apart, and it has to be acceptable unto your spouse, and it has to be acceptable unto your children. Is that what it said? It has to be acceptable unto the Most High. That's right. It's got to be acceptable. Because a lot of times your spouse and your children, they ain't going to put you through that. They ain't going to, a lot of times your parents, your spouse, your children, they're not going to put you through the meat grinder like Yahusha will. Like the Most High Yah will. He's gonna put you through the task. He's gonna turn up the fire. That's why you got to get all that sin out. It's got to be acceptable unto him. So let's go to Exodus 23 and 16. Keep the feast of unleavened bread. Thou shalt eat unleavened bread 7 days, as I commanded thee, in the time appointed of the month Abib, for in it thou camest out from Egypt, and none shall appear before me empty. So this is one of those feasts where you're supposed to have something to give. You're supposed to have something to give. He says, none of you are supposed to appear before me empty. At the feast of harvest, the first fruits of thy labors, which thou hast sown in the field, and the feast of ingathering. So what is he talking about here? He's talking about the Passover, right? But then what feast is this that he's talking about? First fruits, which is, actually this, he's talking about Shavuot. Ingathering is at the end. He's talking about two different feasts here. Pentecost. Because at Pentecost, that's when they had their first fruits or they had their first harvest, was at Pentecost or Shavuot. So you've got unleavened bread, you got Shavuot, the feast of ingathering, which is at the end of the year, which is tabernacles, or Sukkot, when thou hast gathered in thy labors out of the field. Listen, 3 times in the year all thy males shall appear before the sovereign Yahuwah. Thou shalt not offer the blood of any sacrifice with leavened bread, neither shall the fat of my sacrifice remain until the morning. The feast of first fruits of thy land thou shalt bring into the house of Yahuwah thy Elohim. Thou shalt not seethe a kid in his mother's milk. So let's go to Exodus 34 and 22. And thou shalt observe the feast of weeks and of first fruits of wheat harvest and the feast of ingathering at the year's end. Thrice, which is 3 times, in the year shall all your men, children, appear before the sovereign Yahuwah, the Elohim of Yasharel. For I will cast out the nations before thee and enlarge thy borders, neither shall any man desire thy land when thou shalt go up to appear before Yahuwah thy Elohim thrice in the year. 3 times. So he's trying to tell you guys something, okay? Deuteronomy 16:16. Three times in a year. How many witnesses do we have now? 3. So out of the mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses, let every word be established. He's letting you know. I'm telling y'all. Yahusha says none of this is done away with. Shaul says, we didn't finish reading that, but after verse 7 and verse 8, you know what he says? In 1 Corinthians 5 and 8, you know what he says? Therefore, keep the feast. Therefore, keep the feast. 3 times in a year shall all thy males appear before Yahuwah thy Elohim in the place which thou shalt choose in the feast of unleavened bread, and in the feast of weeks, and in the feast of tabernacles, and they shall not appear before Yahuwah empty. And you're supposed to give according as he has blessed you to give. So there's 3 feasts that are mandatory. And I know he's calling out to the men. He's calling out to the men. But if the men go, they're taking their wives and they're taking their children. Yeah. Now, we didn't read all, you had to finish reading all of chapter 12. Maybe we'll do it later, but it talks, Exodus chapter 12, but it talks about how it's mandatory for Yasharel, everybody in Yasharel, to keep the feast. All their men. And if your men are not circumcised, they need to be circumcised before they keep the feast. And if there's strangers that are dwelling with Yasharel, they cannot keep the feast unless they're circumcised. If they're not circumcised, they can't keep the feast. So it's just for Israelites and those who are strangers with them that are circumcised. It was very stringent, and many of them walked the line, but we're going to see how Yasharel got away from keeping the commandments and keeping the feasts, and they started to get into worshiping other gods. Well, we'll see it. Let's go to Deuteronomy 29. Deuteronomy 29, let's start at verse 5 or 6, or let's see. Okay, let's go down. Let's see, verse 9. Okay, let's look at verse 9. Keep therefore the words of this covenant and do them, that ye may prosper in all that ye do. Ye stand this day, all of you, before Yahuwah, your Elohim, your captains of your tribes, your elders, and your officers, all the men of Yasharel, your little ones, your wives, and thy stranger that is in the camp, from the hewer of wood unto the drawer of water, that thou shouldest enter into covenant with Yahuwah thy Elohim, and into his oath, which Yahuwah thy Elohim maketh with thee this day. Okay, let's go down. We're going to read. That he may establish thee today for a people unto who? So he's making this with a people, a nation. He's not doing it for the whole world. That's why a lot of people in these other religions don't want to recognize this. He's done with that because this is a covenant that he made with himself and Yasharel. And he's not a covenant breaker, but Yasharel broke the covenant. I want to go through it and read something because I want us to see what we did to him. That he may establish thee today for a people unto himself, and that he may be unto thee a Elohim, as he hath said unto thee, and as he hath sworn unto thy fathers, to Abraham, Yishak, and Jacob. Notice now, it's the oath and the covenant that he made with Abraham, Yishak, and Jacob. Abraham had other sons, right? In fact, he had Ishmael. But he didn't make this covenant with Ishmael or Keturah's sons, because the promise came through Yishak. It came through Sarah, Abraham, and Sarah. Because he tells us, we're going to come right back here, 29:13. Isaiah 51:1. Isaiah 51:1. We're going to come right back here. Because Isaiah 51:1 says, hearken to me, ye that follow after righteousness, ye that seek Yahuwah, look unto the rock whence ye are hewn, and unto the hole of the pit whence ye are dead. So who is he talking about? Look at verse number 2. Look unto Abraham, your father, and unto who? Sarah, because the seed came through Sarah and not Hagar. So you have a lot of Ishmaelites and a lot of people who, the Arabs and all these people follow Islam and Muslim, and they said they got you got the blessing, you got Ishmael's blessing, but you're not the promise. They're not the promised ones. The promise comes through. That's why he tells them, you got to look unto Abraham and Sarah. Look unto them, because that's where the promise came. Because a lot of people think it went to Ishmael. Ishmael was the firstborn. Ishmael gets all the blessing. Ishmael wasn't the promise. He wasn't the promise. It came through Sarah. For I called him alone and blessed him and increased him. And it came through Sarah. No mistake. Let's go back to Deuteronomy 29:13. That's where we were. Neither with you only, listen to this. Neither with you only do I make this covenant and this oath. Not with just them that was there. This is very important. But with them standeth here with us this day before Yahuwah Elohim, and also with him that is what? Not here with us this day, because everybody that was born of that seed was under this covenant and under this oath. Those who are of Abraham's seed through Yishak or Isaac, Jacob, everybody that's of that seed, you're under this covenant and this oath. Well, didn't Yahushua come to take that away? No. He did not come to take that away. In fact, it tells us in Romans 15:8, he came to do what? Romans 15:8, we're going to come back here. Romans 15:8. Now I say that Yahushua Mashiach was a minister of the circumcision for the truth of Elohim to do what? He came to confirm it. Anybody that tells you he came to do away with it are a liar. And the truth is not in them. Sorry to say. But they're a liar. The truth is not in it. He didn't come to do away with it. He came to confirm it. Because Yasharel broke the covenant, and we're going to see how he felt about them breaking the covenant. Deuteronomy, 29:15, is that where we were? Deuteronomy 29:15. My time's running out. Of course, I got more time, right? Leading up to Pesach, I got more time. Also with him that is not here with us this day, that includes you. That's you. You're under covenant and oath. Everybody of the seed, Abraham, Isaac, Jacob had the 12 tribes. Everybody that's of that seed that was not there that day, you're still under covenant and you're still under oath. And that's why, we're going to read through here, but that's why we thank Yahusha so much, because we were under covenant and oath, but we didn't keep it. So Yahusha's our Passover now to cover for us. For ye know how we have dealt in the land of Egypt, and how we came through the nations which passed by, and ye have seen their abominations and their idols. Notice now, they seen their idols, wood and stone, silver and gold, which among them, lest there should be among you man or woman or family or tribe whose heart turneth away this day from Yahuwah or Elohim to go serve the gods of these nations. Notice now, Yasharel had no Ishtar. They had no E-A-S-T-E-R. E-A-S-T-E-R comes from Ishtar. They didn't have that. We was under covenant and oath. We didn't have no wood, no stone. No gold, no silver. We didn't have none, no God. Yahuwah Elohim was our Most High. He still is, but he had to discipline Israel because they turned on him. Serve gods of these nations, lest there should be among you a root that beareth gall and wormwood. Wormwood is bitter. People want to make you, they'll want you to feel bitter for keeping this. They come with bitter news. And it come to pass when he heareth the words of this curse, that he bless himself in his heart, saying, I shall have peace. Uh-oh. Y'all read that? You see that? When he heareth the words of this curse, because you know what people say today? You ain't under no curse. Saying, I shall have peace. Oh, you ain't got to worry about them curses in Deuteronomy 28. You ain't under that. You can have peace. Because he said it was going to happen. Our only peace, you know where our peace is? We know who the Prince of Peace is. And he says in Isaiah 26, he says, I will keep you in perfect peace, whose mind is stayed on Yahuwah. And he's saying this all day long. So if you want any peace, you're going to find peace in Torah. Well, Torah was made flesh, and he dwelt among us. And Yahuwah says, we beheld his glory. We handled the word of life. Torah. He blessed himself in his heart, saying, I shall have peace. Listen. I shall have peace, though I walk in the imagination of my own heart, to add drunkenness to thirst. That's the one you dealt with, isn't it? Yeah. Delusional. They're delusional. Anytime you walk in the imagination of your own heart, you know what Jeremiah says, Yirmiyah, he says the heart is desperately wicked. Huh? It's in your heart. It's desperately wicked. Who can know it? Is that what he said? So I can't walk after the imagination of my heart because I know my heart. I left it up to my heart. Y'all leave it up to your heart, you're going to miss it. You're going to miss it. You're going to miss the kingdom. You leave it up to your heart. Because that's what this world is telling you, and that's what that religion is telling you. Trust your heart. It's in your heart. Trust your heart. No, my heart is wicked. I can't trust my heart. That's why I got to keep my mind stayed on him. I got to meditate on Torah. I got to allow Torah to wash and cleanse and purge me. I got to allow Torah to do that. Because I trusted myself. Yahuwah will not spare him. He's not going to spare that one. But then the anger of Yahuwah and his jealousy shall smoke against that man. You want some smoke? Oh, you're going to get it from Yahuwah's, his anger. He says, my anger going to smoke that man. And all the curses that are written in this book shall lie upon him, and Yahuwah shall blot out his name from under the Shamayim. He blots out your name. You can't get it back in the book. And Yahuwah shall separate him unto the evil out of all the tribes of Yasharel, according to all the curses of the covenant that are written in this book of the law, which is not done away, so that the generation to come of your children that shall rise up after you, and the stranger that shall come from a far land shall say, when they see the plagues of that land and the sicknesses which Yahuwah hath laid upon it. What are they going to say? The whole land thereof of brimstone and salt and burning. It is not sown, nor beareth, nor any grass groweth therein, like the overthrow of Sodom and Gomorrah, Admah, Zeboam, which Yahuwah overthrew in his anger and in his wrath. So we're going to see his anger. We're going to see his anger. Even all nations shall say, wherefore hath Yahuwah done this unto this land? Which, what meaneth the heat of his great anger? Why is the Most High Yah so angry? His people broke covenant. They messed up. They went after idols. They went after other gods. And he says, he tried to tell her, I'm jealous. I'm a jealous Elohim. Then men shall say, because they have forsaken the covenant of Yahuwah Elohim of their fathers, which he made with them when he brought them forth out of the land of Egypt. For they went and served other gods and worshiped them, gods whom they knew not and whom he had not given unto them. He has not given unto us, E-A-S-T-E-R. He didn't give that to us. Anybody that celebrates E-A-S-T-E-R is pagan. That's a pagan holiday, and people who keep it are pagans. They determine E-A-S-T-E-R the first full moon. Actually, it's the first Sunday after the full moon, after the equinox. No, it's, how do they do it now? It is, E-A-S-T-E-R follows the equinox, and it's the first Sunday after the full moon. Okay, so it's the first Sunday after the full moon. That's what it is, yeah. So they always determine Easter by the equinox, the solar equinox, and then the first Sunday after the full moon. And that's when they set their date, because it's pagan. It's all pagan. So anybody that keeps Easter Sunday is pagan. That's a pagan practice. It's pagan. He says, I didn't give that unto you. He had not given them unto It's not our Passover. It's Yahuwah's Passover. And then Christ becomes our Passover. That's his Passover. And then after that, we have unleavened bread. And we'll see, we know Yahusha kept it because it's all in the Gospels, but we'll see that the disciples kept it too after his resurrection. Because that Roman religion will tell you after his resurrection, all that was done away with. Because on the cross, it says he is finished. It is finished. And they think, well, the law ended when he says it is finished on the cross. No, it didn't. What he was saying was, when he was offered up as a sinless sacrifice and he took on sin so that we don't have to bear the judgment of sin, once he did that, he said it is finished. It's finished. Shaul said something like that. Shaul says, I've finished my course. I've kept the faith. He says, I fought a good fight. I've finished my course. I've kept the faith. What he's saying, okay, it's finished. I did what I was supposed to do. Now, can we say that? When it comes down to the end, can we say, I've finished my course, I've fought a good fight of faith, I've kept the faith, I fought a good fight. I've kept the faith. I've finished my course. Then he says, what's laid up for him is a crown of righteousness that will not fade away. And Yahusha says, it's finished. I did what I was supposed to do. But see, the Roman religion will tell you, when he said it is finished, he did away with the law. The reason why they tell you that is because they want to come in and replace everything, and then they'll tell you you're going to heaven. Because they don't want to deal with Torah, because in Torah, you don't see nobody going to heaven in Torah. What you see is that kingdom being set up here on earth, and Yahusha coming down to reign here on earth. Even before his ascension, they said, will you at this time restore unto us the kingdom? He says, no, it's not for you to know the time or the season when I do it. You just go get your strength on the feast of Shavuot, which is Pentecost, and you're going to be a witness for me. Not to break Torah, but you're going to be a witness unto him. And the anger of Yahuwah was kindled against this land to bring upon it the curses that are written in this book. And Yahuwah rooted them out of their land in anger and in wrath and in great indignation and cast them into another land. And as he was writing this, he says what? As it is this day. And Yahuwah rooted them out of their land in anger. Did y'all catch that? He's prophesying. Because at the time of the writing of this book, Moses couldn't even go into the promised land. So what he's saying is prophecy. And Yahuwah rooted them out of their land. They haven't got there yet. So he's talking about a future prophecy. In anger, he did it in anger, he did it in wrath, and in great indignation, and cast them into another land as it is this day. A couple more scriptures and we're done. Jeremiah 16, 16 and verse number, let's see, 12. Somewhere around, let's see. Okay, let's go up. Let's go up to about 9. Let's see what does 9 say. Uh, 10. And it shall come to pass when thou shalt show this people all these words, and they shall say unto thee, wherefore have Yahuwah pronounced all this great evil against us? Or what is our iniquity? Or what is our sin that we have committed against Yahuwah our Elohim? Then shalt thou say unto them, because your fathers have forsaken me, saith Yahuwah, and have walked after what? And they still do it today. They're getting ready to walk after one in a few days. So it's still happening. Other gods, and have served them, and have worshiped them. Because when you go after other gods and you serve them and you worship them, what have you done? You've forsaken him. And I know a lot of our brothers and sisters, they do it out of ignorance. They do it out of ignorance. But he's not winking at that anymore. Because we're at the end. Like he's getting ready to have this solar eclipse, and you see that Hebrew Aleph and Tav. We're at the end. We're at the end here. Have worshipped and forsaken me, and have not kept my law. So what happens? And ye have done worse than your fathers, for behold, ye walk everyone. Didn't we hear that before? Didn't we hear that in the time of Moses, Musha? He says, because y'all going to go after the imagination of your own heart. You're going to leave me and serve these other gods, and then you're going to say you're going to be at peace, and you're going to walk after the imagination of your own heart. Because, see, we don't know Torah. We think we know Torah. We don't know Torah. And ye have done worse than your fathers, for behold, ye walk everyone after the imagination of his evil heart, that they may not hearken unto me. Therefore will I cast you out of this land into a land that ye know not, ye nor your fathers, and there shall ye serve other gods day and night, where I will not show you favor. Because everybody that's keeping these pagan holidays, and you know what else they do on Eshtar, E-A-S-T-E-R? They put a big old swine on the table. Big old swine on the table. And you got some of these preachers and pastors, and put a title on them, I don't care what you call them, and they can't wait to preach and then go home and eat some swine. They can't wait to eat some swine. So let's look at Jeremiah 17:1, next chapter, 17:1. And then I want to go to, after this, I want to go to, I think it's Isaiah, 42 and 14. The sin of Yehuda is written with a pen of iron, with the point of a diamond, graven upon the table of their heart and upon the horns of their altars. Because you got a lot of people, the sons of Yehuda, saying, we ain't changing. I don't care what he says. We'll change the name from Easter Sunday to Resurrection Sunday. It's still the same thing. It's pagan. It's all pagan. So what he says here, You've got it as a pen of iron, a point of a diamond, graven upon the table of their heart, upon the horns of your altars, because you got people says, I don't care what they say. I'm going to keep Easter and Resurrection Sunday. I'm going to eat my swine. I'll wake up in the morning and eat my bacon. I'll eat my BLT. I'll eat pork chop. I'll bring them to the church, and we're going to have some pork. Not only that, we're going to have some baby back ribs. While their children remember their altars and their groves by the green trees upon the high hills, O my mountain in the field, I will give thy substance and all thy treasures to the spoil, thy high places for sin throughout thy borders. And thou, even thyself, shalt discontinue from thine heritage that I gave thee. Because you got a lot of people saying, I'd rather be Christian than an Israelite. So they give up their, I ain't no Hebrew, I'm a Christian. So you're going to give up your heritage. And they did. They gave up their heritage. And I will cause thee to serve thine enemies in the land which thou knowest not. This was a future prophecy. For ye have, what did we do? Kindle a fire in my anger. And what's going to burn? It's going to burn forever. We kindled a fire in his anger. It was through his anger and indignation that he did what he did to Yasharel, to the all over the world. Yes. They gave it up. They gave it up. In fact, when Yahusha was, they could have delivered him from the Romans. They didn't have to turn him over to the Romans. But they said, let this man's blood be on us and our children. We're going to put it on us and our children. And they're going to go after serve other gods. Christmas is a god. All you got to do is do simple research. He wasn't born on December 25th. It don't take much. It does not take much. All the pagan gods. They all started from Nimrod on. The celebration of the winter solstice on December 25th predates our Messiah. So what those Romans did was they brought they got a Messiah now. Well, it's called syncretism. We're going to take his Messiah and we're going to mix it in with our religion. Syncretism. Huh? No, syncretism, isn't it? Semitism. Semantics. Yeah, it's a matter of semantics. Yeah. But his Torah is very explicit. But yeah, they say it's just a matter of semantics. Semantic deception. That's what it is. Yeah. I mean, why don't our preachers tell us the truth? Why don't they just do your research? That's all it takes. It's not pulling, I'm not trying to pull your arm out of your socket. I'm not trying, just look it up. It's right there. It don't take much. But like it says, it's like a pen of iron. They've written it on their heart. They're not changing. It don't matter. Yahusha could come and tell them, don't do that. Y'all know that's idolatry. They don't care. They're going to do it anyway. And so it says, you've kindled a fire in my anger. That fire ain't going to go out. So the only thing that keeps us from his anger is his only begotten son. He becomes our Passover because he says, when I see the blood, if y'all don't have the blood on you, death. But if I see the blood, I'm going to pass over because Yahusha is our Passover right now. Yeah. One more. Can I get one more scripture? We're done. Isaiah 42:14. Yasharyahu 42:14. Because a lot of people say, he hasn't done nothing yet. We've been doing Christmas and Easter all our life. He ain't done nothing yet. Because that's what a lot of people will say. We've been doing this for generations. This is a generational thing. See, you don't realize that before those slaves came over here on slave ships, they never did keep those holidays. Over in Africa and stuff, they didn't keep those holidays. Now, there was other gods, because all them Canaanites and all Ethiopians, and they had their gods. I'm not saying they weren't around false gods and idolatry. They were. But they weren't keeping the idolatry. Well, some of them might have, because you had Nimrod and Tammuz. Well, in Ezekiel, the 8th or 9th chapter, he says, look at these women. They're weeping for Tammuz. Weeping for Tammuz. Oh, man, we've kindled some fire in him. I mean, if you're still alive, you ought to be thinking, I know I'm only alive because of his son. He had mercy. He's extended mercy unto us, because he could have cut us off. Listen to what he said. I have long time holding my peace. I have been still and refrained myself for a long time. I've holden my peace because he made a covenant with Abraham, and he made an oath unto them. Somebody's got to be saved. I'm going to save. And he told us it's just going to be a remnant. He says that in Isaiah, in the same book, the 10th chapter. He says, though Israel be like the sand by the sea shore, only a remnant is going to return. Just a remnant. So he says, for a long time, I've held my peace. I've been still. Even though that fire and that indignation, and he says it's going to burn forever, he says, I've held my peace. Now will I cry like a travailing woman. I will destroy and devour at once. When his judgment comes, ain't nobody going to escape. So you got a lot of people preparing for this solar eclipse because they think, man, I think this is the end. I think something's going to happen. So people are getting their bunkers ready. People are stocking up. People are getting water. And I would say if they're telling you this, you probably should prepare yourself. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know what's going to happen. They might be getting us ready for the big reset. Because there is going to be a reset in our monetary system. That is going to happen. And they said it'll take about 3 days to get everything converted over. And our government, do you think our government is going to tell you everything that they're doing? They're not going to tell you. They're not going to tell you. So we have to be prepared. So on that day, I know what on April 8th, I'm staying in the house. I'm staying in the house. I'm going to have my food, my water, my cars will be filled up. I'm just going to sit. I'm going to lay low. I'm going to wait and see I'm going to see what's going to happen. Now, if you're in a neighborhood where there's a lot of crazies and folks want to ride in the daytime and shoot them up and everything, yeah, you better get some security. You better just pack it in, just kind of be careful, protect your family, protect yourself. That's all I'm going to say. Because I am. I'm not going anywhere. I want to see what happens. I want to see what happens. It might just pass over. Because I think there's so much messaging, there's so much noise, so much stuff going on. It's just the totality of the eclipse is only like 4 minutes. Yeah. Yeah. And they said that there might be a rush on food and gas and stuff, so you should have your cars filled up, should have food, and until it passes over. Till it passes over. So only thing I say is just be ready. Just be ready. Because once this thing starts, now, we haven't talked a lot about Mystery Babylon, but we're living in Mystery Babylon. And in Revelation, the 17th, 18th chapter, it's going to be destroyed in 1 hour. So when the destruction comes on this land that we're in, it's coming fast. Like he says, I will destroy, I'm going to devour at one. Hey, when his judgment comes, because he says, hey, I've been holding on for a long time now. I've been holding on for a long time. I've kept peace. After your sins and your idolatry has burned in me with a fury and a fire, and he says forever. He said, but I held my peace. I'm holding my peace. But when he starts judgment, oh, it's coming. It's coming. And I think he's marking, can you put that back up here, that United States, the olive and the tav? He's marking this country, Mystery Babylon. Aleph to tav, because that's what Yahusha is. He's the Aleph, and the tav, not olive, but Aleph and tav. And that's what you see, the Aleph and the tav. 2017 to 2023 to 2024. He's the Aleph, which is the first. Tav is the last. He's the beginning and the end. And he's everything in between, too. And there's 22 letters to the Hebrew alphabet. I think we need to really get into Torah and into... If he was into Greek, why didn't he put the omega? Alpha and omega sign. Why didn't he put the alpha and omega sign on here? Because he's not into Greek. It's not the Greek. And he could have... Now, I know the Aleph and the Hebrew language predates the English language by how many thousand years? I mean, the Hebrew language is a much older, ancient language than the English. So if you look at the Aleph, if you turn it from a 45-degree angle straight up to a perpendicular or 90 degree, if you turn it straight up, what does it look like? So they got their language from, the English language, they got it from the ancient Hebrew language. Because you got the A. Now this looks like an X, and we got X, Y, Z.
X marks the spot.
X marks the spot. Yeah. This is Mystery Babylon. Mystery Babylon. And in Revelations, it says that when he destroys it, just like he said in Isaiah, when I do destroy, I'm going to do it at once. You won't have time to repent. There won't be no time. If you're in this land, didn't we read? It was like Sodom and Gomorrah. It was like brimstone and smoke and fire. Yes.
Okay, so on that same note, they've been talking about Yellowstone, and they've been looking at Yellowstone. I'm wondering if Yellowstone is going to be part of it. Because Yellowstone, the brimstone is from volcanoes.
Volcanoes, and you got that what is that, sulfuric?
Yeah, sulfuric.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
if Yellowstone's going to...
It could blow. It could blow.
That could take care of the entire United States.
If it did blow, that's it. That's it for United States.
Yeah.
You're right. That's it for United States. What is that called? It's in Yellowstone. I know it's in Yellowstone. What is it?
Yeah, Yellowstone Caldera.
Caldera. That's where it is. And they said that there's so many, there's earthquakes every day. It's been rumbling for a while now. So it's like it's just rumbling, just ready to explode. But when it does happen, it's going to happen quick. Yeah. And if you're here, if you don't leave, if the Most High Yah don't get us out of here, If you don't make that trip out of here, you're going to perish here. That's why we're making preparations so that we can get out of here. All right. Thank you for your time. Thank you for having the patience to listen to me and in our Torah study. And we're going to be back on the Shabbat for our Shabbat celebration. Now, if you're not keeping the Shabbat and you're not keeping the feast days, as he's waking everybody up, and you have a lot of people who refuse to do it, because you're going to have to give an answer for that. I ain't keeping no Passover. I ain't keeping unleavened. You got to give an answer for that, because he's waking everybody up. And our Passover and unleavened bread, those who want to join us, before you take us off the air, media team, before you take me off, those who want to join us for our Passover unleavened bread, it's going to be April 23rd, and we're going to have our Passover meal and unleavened bread at Cambria in Bittendorf. That's where we're going to be. Registration for everybody who wants to, we ask you to register. You can go on to our website, which is www.hebrewfellowship.godaddysites.com. I think it's, did you put it up there, media team? Yeah, there it is. It's up there. Okay. You did put it up there. Good. Go to that website and register and take part of the Pesach, because you're going to hear more teaching. It is mandatory. It is a mandatory meeting. You know, it is a mandatory meeting. You're not supposed to miss it. And we didn't read down in Exodus chapter 12. Give me some more time. We'll get down to the bottom. Because he says if you don't keep it, he's going to cut you off from Yasharel. Yeah, Yeah, he said he's going to cut you off from Yasharel. That's where all the promises are anyway. The promises are given unto Yasharel. So if you're not a part of Yasharel, you're not going to be a part of the promises. And this book, the Bible, we call it the Bible, but it's a irrevocable trust. It's an irrevocable land trust between the Most High Yah